actresses in this movie. In order, there are Réjane, Bernhardt, Fisk, and Duza. And the quote on this card is the best thing anyone has said, I think, about them. Arthur Simons, who's a legendary critic, said, "Only 3 actresses in our generation possessed that supreme quality, genius. Eleanor Duza, Sarah Bernhardt, and Réjane." I'm going to talk about Fisk. Not a genius, according to Simon, but I thought someone should represent her, so I looked up these facts on the internet today. She's the only American in this film, and she was a child star. She was paid in lollipops at the age of 12. She was known mainly as Mrs. Fisk, and she was directed for most of her career by her husband, Mr. Fisk. She was from New Orleans, and she, I think, is most known for playing Nora in Ibsen's A Doll's House, which is really interesting because Réjane was really well known for that, and so was Duza. And so we've been having a really interesting little conversation about Ibsen and his effect on theater at this time, which is not like really news. Everyone knows he was a huge influence on theater, but Réjane was said to have been Ibsen's favorite Nora, and so was Duza. And I don't know if Fisk was said to have been his favorite, but her career really took off when she played that character. So I think it's really interesting, and I wish some of these clips were of them playing Nora, but they are not. Fisk also was known for fighting what was called the theatrical syndicate, which I think is also really interesting. It was a group of 6 men who essentially controlled all of the theaters, the big theaters in this country, and decided who played what and when. And if they didn't like you, you were out. So she ended up dying penniless from fighting them for 12 years. But I applaud her fight. Now Réjane is someone I know a lot more about because I've spent 7 years researching her. And I stumbled onto her story because I am friends and longtime friends with her descendants. So these lovely people I've known my whole life one day said, "We never told you about our grandmother?" And then this project began. Réjane to me is extremely interesting for a couple of reasons, and I will be brief because I know we want to watch this film. But to me, what stands out about her is that this is a woman who was raised on the streets of Paris, left alone to wander by herself from the age of 4. And that spirit, that sort of gumption, that being able to take care of herself at a time when a lot of women couldn't, I think influenced her entire career and life. She went to the conservatoire, she was classically trained, and in that era, if you won first prize in your class, you got a contract, a lifetime contract with the Comédie Française. And so that was everyone's goal, and then you were set. That was your job. She came in second, and wound up at a theater called the Vaudeville, which I think was probably the best thing that could have happened to her, because the Comédie Française was very staid, and you did things a very specific way each night, and you did a very specific set of plays. Because she was forced to do all these comedies, she really honed her chops as a comedian, and people really grew to love her spirit. And I think that kind of fed her, and she woke up a little bit, even more on the inside as an artist, and started branching out. So she didn't stick with comedy. She met a man called Paul Plurel, who was the director of the Odeon. And to put it in context, the Odeon was the second national theater of France behind the Comédie Française. So it's like meeting Harvey Weinstein if you're an actress on the way up, and he takes a shine to you, and then he marries you, and has babies with you, and sets you up. And that is what happened, but it's not as though he made her. Together, I think they really pushed theater in a new direction. And their first big premiere together was right after the birth of their daughter, well before they were married. And it was called Germany Lasserteau. It was written by the Goncourt brothers, and you can probably check it out here, or at least the novel that it's based on. And it was very scandalous and very gritty and really different. It was quite a departure. She played a maid. No one played maids in that era. And people threw cabbages and food at her. And by the end of it, the run of this play, they were selling out. And so she continued to break new ground all the way through her career until she opened her own theater called the Théâtre Réjane and it's still there, and it's now called the Théâtre de Paris. And by the time she owned her own theater, she made a departure even from naturalism into symbolism, and was, well, not premiering, but premiering in France, works by Maeterlinck, and people that took theater in a whole another direction. So she was just a trailblazer. And that spirit is what attracted me to her and her story and what I've written about. So I wrote a play that kind of takes a journey from that very traditional training through naturalism and into symbolism. And you don't have to understand any of that to watch it, because it's really just this woman's story and her personal growth and her influence on the world she was living in. But structurally, that's in there, which was really fun for me to write and to play with. And by the time she got to have her own theater, she and Pourel split, and in their divorce proceedings, she won the right to sign her own contracts, which women were not allowed to do at that time. And it was because she had been so quick to stand her ground from the beginning and establish herself as an individual. Again, unusual at that time. She also had 2 kids while she was doing all of this, and there weren't a whole lot of working mothers in the Belle Epoque. So as one, I really admire that. That's about all I have to say about Réjane. She died in 1920 of a weak heart. Everyone told her to slow down and take it easy or she would keel over. She ignored them all, continued to blaze on, and then that was that. The play that I wrote opens at the Bootleg Theater on November 14th. Please come, tell everyone you know. I'm very excited about it. I think it's genuinely really interesting piece of theater, and I've collaborated with a lot of people who really have a lot to bring as well. There's a director coming from Europe and a lot of really great local talent, some of whom are here. And I just really look forward to it. After this screening and after we're done talking, there will be a little reception at Cafe Pinot nearby. They've extended their happy hour menu. So if you're free, please come have a glass of wine with me. And you can ask me any other questions, any questions you may have about Réjane in particular, but this film.